The Municipal Demarcation Board will officially hand over the final set of electoral wards to the Electoral Commission of South Africa. That's the IEC. This is happening at the Irene Country Lodge in Pretoria. Lizel Wilson is there, so let's cross in, find out what to expect. I know she mentioned that the actual official proceedings begin at 10 o'clock this morning, but Lizel, talk to us what's happening there. Good morning.
Leanne, good morning. That's right. The official program, the official handover is set to take place at around 10 a.m. this morning. And this is where different key players along the value chain will be obviously taking a look at that list, that electoral ward list, or boundary list, rather, that's going to be handed from the Municipal Demarcation Board to the IEC. And that obviously gives the IEC the green light to continue with their voter registration and voter education programs in the build-up to the local government elections. But let's chat to the Municipal Demarcation Board Acting CEO, Aluwani Ramagatsa. Perhaps you can explain a little bit more about the process and, of course, the significance of this and the broader schemes of things when it comes to our democracy. Mr. Aluwani, good morning, and thank you so much for your time on the SABC.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
What an exciting time. We're obviously witnessing this key milestone. It's an important one for the democratic project of South Africa, particularly at a time where trust has to be maintained. We successfully delivered a successful national government elections. Obviously, last year we saw the dynamics unfolding with the government of national unity being announced as per the votes that came in. And so this is going to be an important process for the local government elections. Perhaps you can tell us about that significance from your vantage point from the MDB side.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's very, very significant that every part of South Africa, everybody in South Africa needs to contribute to making sure that our democracy becomes what we want it to be. That's very critical. And as the Municipal Demarcation Board, we intend to make sure that we keep that and make sure that our democracy keeps on thriving under trying circumstances. So as the Municipal Demarcation Board, with the ward delimitation process, we think that we are playing that role quite well, and we intend to make sure that even the preparations for the next local government elections are even better than what we had before.
All right, so we're going to build up from that momentum. Let's look at that delimitation cycle for 2024-2025. But even just the constitutional mandate of having this, process undergone by the MDB every 5 years. The evolution, perhaps the most challenging aspects of all of this over the past 5 years as well.
Indeed. From 2000, when the new dispensation of local government started, I don't think a lot of us thought that we'll be where we are today. So as the Municipal Demarcation Board, we are very proud to announce that we have been doing this now, I think, for over 20 years, since 2000. And like you said, indeed, the ward delimitation process happens every 5 years before each and every local government election. It's a very critical step in the preparations for the local government elections. And we take that very seriously, and we have since started in 2024, to be specific, and it's a type of a role that requires a collaboration from different stakeholders. Yeah. We have seen last year, after the national and provincial elections, the IEC certifying the national common voters roll, which was very critical for this work, that we use those numbers as we do ward delimitations, and then that was followed by the minister, who then published the formula for determining the number of councillors. Then the MECs in different provinces, they used that to determine the number of councillors for their municipalities. So you can see that it's quite a chain. So everybody plays their part. But most significantly is the Municipal Demarcation Board. We came in, and then we took the number of councillors that we had, and then determined the number of wards each municipality should have. But most importantly, the part that we have introduced, which started last year in July and ended around October, the awareness and education campaign. I think that's very, very critical. Our work is very technical in nature, and that's why we thought it's important that we should go around the country and make sure that our people understand what they need to do, their part in the process, because we wanted to make sure that the outcome, the wards that we put together, at least it's their contribution. So it's pretty much, what you're going to see today is pretty much an outcome of what the people told us to do in South Africa. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're speaking to balancing community identities with that technical process that is obviously you would have undergone. And the tools, the criteria that have also been used. There's that issue that we have to maintain when it comes to transparency, accountability, so that it is free and fair. Scientifically, can you break it down for us? What went to it, bar the information that you would have got from national and provincial elections last year and the momentum gained?
Okay, I told you about the certified voters roll.
Yes.
That's very critical for this particular process. After we got the national common voters roll, which is broken down into all municipalities in the country. In other words, we've got that information, the data that tells us, for example, in the city of Tshwane, we've got this number of registered voters. And then what we do as part of our criteria is to make sure that each ward, as part of our criteria, each ward in each municipality has got almost the equal number of registered voters. So we need to make sure that by the day of the election, there's no ward that is too bigger than any other. So we make sure that there's a fair balance of registered voters for each and every ward, to make sure that people fairly appoint or elect their representatives in that regard. So most critically, we have to make sure that each ward adheres to what we call the norm. The norm, to be specific, we just divide the total number of councillors in a municipality by the number of wards. That will give us roughly the average number of registered voters each municipality must have. In terms of the law, then we can only deviate by 15% above that number or 15% below that number. This is critical because in some communities you find that maybe they've got a lot of registered voters. So when you put them together, they may go beyond the 20%. Or you may find that if you were to stick only to the norm, that community will be split. So we try and avoid, that's another criteria, and avoid as far as possible the separation of communities or settlement. However, that is not always possible because of the numbers. I told you that at the beginning, we need to make sure that there's a fair balance of the registered voters in each municipality. Yeah. So, but we need to adhere to that criteria. But most importantly, we need to avoid as far as possible splitting communities, but also look at the accessibility of people to access voting stations, the topography of the area. You don't want to have a ward that is separated by a big river and people can't go over to the other side to access the voting station, for example. So that's very critical in this regard.
Absolutely. Underrepresentation or overrepresentation needs to be key. As the new generation says, the math needs to be mathing. Mm-hmm. So, Aluwani, thank you for speaking to that. I just wonder, as I wrap up very quickly, any areas of concern when it comes to contestation, given how you've outlined the wards for this year ahead of the announcement?
We are quite aware that, especially demarcation itself, is a very technical process, but also at the same time is a highly contested terrain. And but with the work that we've done, we're very comfortable that in most places it's going to be fine. However, we are aware that the metros are going to be areas of high contestations. That we can understand with the number of people that participated in our processes in different places. But also in some areas you might find that there are some issues of service delivery on the ground, and people always relate it to our processes as well. So that's some of the challenges.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for breaking it down. We're obviously awaiting that announcement officially at 10 o'clock, that handover. Aluwani Ramagatsa is from the Municipal Demarcation Board. He's the acting CEO, chatting to us about the processes underwent over the past 5 years, and of course, really what's going to happen as it's officially handed over to the IEC in just a few moments as we edge closer to 10 o'clock.